All right, Jim, I think we're ready to go. And Jason, Jim and Jason.
Jim, we're all set and recording, correct, Jim?
Yes, we are.
All right, thank you.
Okay, welcome. You are fine. All right, so it is 6 o'clock and we will go ahead and call the meeting to order. Kathy, and roll call, please.
Mayor Bean,
Here, yes, sorry, I skipped the Pledge of Allegiance.
Councilmember Chapman,
Here.
Councilmember Furby, Councilmember Scanlon,
Here.
Councilmember Skug.
Here.
Yeah, I am not reading well. I said roll call and looked at call to order and wondered why it said that. And so I am just doing things out of order. But yes, we are not going to skip the Pledge of Allegiance. And so Pat, would you please lead us for that?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So you may have noticed that the meeting is starting an hour earlier than it has previously. So at the couple of meetings ago, we did change that to 6 o'clock instead of 7 o'clock. And I think it might have been my idea, and it's been quite the adjustment for me today. So I apologize to everyone who that was also an adjustment for, and I hope that it gets easier as we continue with our new time. So with that, we will move on to, we've done number 1, number 2, and number 3. That puts us at number 4, which is public comment. And I think the way we've been doing this is starting with Zoom and then going to in person. We do have actually a number of people in attendance in person. I'm not sure if we do on Zoom, but public comment is limited to 5 minutes per person. And so if you're on Zoom or in person and you would like to speak, you'll go up to the podium. It'll take us a minute if you're in person to get the camera redirected over so that the camera is on you, and then you'll have 5 minutes. And just as a reminder also that public comment is just your opportunity to speak to council and to provide your public comment, but we don't typically tend to address any specific questions or requests during that time. So with that, we'll look at Zoom. And Jim and Jason, is there anyone on Zoom? And if there is someone on Zoom, you can use the raise your hand function, and then we will let you speak. And we've been tripped up by the mouse pointer that looks like a hand in the past.
Your Honor, I am not seeing any hands going up.
Okay. All right, we'll come back for one last check on that before we close public comment, but is there anyone here in the room that would like to speak for public comment? Please go ahead.
Off just a hair. Okay, all set.
Okay.
Claudia Demarest, 821 Marie Street in Ishpeming. City managers should be friendly to the employees. However, they should not be friends with the employees so as to keep a professional relationship. Inviting a married employee of the opposite sex on a fishing excursion is crossing a line It should not be crossed, as it doesn't give a very good appearance to the other employees. or
Is
the
this,
public.
I'm sorry. Okay, is that it?
That is it.
Okay, because I do feel as if that type of public comment is crossing a line that,
Public comment.
It's completely unacceptable.
that's,
Mm-mm.
okay,
Could have said a lot more.
okay.
So could we.
We will move on from that. Okay, is there anyone else in the audience that would like to provide public comment?
My name is Tim Harris, 1040 Wabash Street, Ishpeming. I'm here to talk about the Ishpeming Playgrounds, the right center field light pole. This has been an issue going on now since the spring. The mice had gotten up in there and chewed on the wires. And we had Mimi go in there out of our own pocket to go up there and check everything out. And he said that he would have to take the light pole down. I called UPCO, I went through the whole stations with all of this stuff. And I did talk to Mr. Kugini a couple times, and Mr. Kugini told me that he's not gonna eat the cost for it. We've been working hand in hand with the city for 40 years. We have the most kids, pre-K through 21 years old, playing 10 different leagues. And we're the #1 team in the Upper Peninsula for kids playing baseball. We've been that way forever. I even had issues in that we did usually pay $1,600, and you guys accommodated us coming out of COVID, and that our monies we have to pay for everything. Like, even you guys know what the price of baseball is right now? It's $6 for one baseball. So times that, you know, everything's expensive. The umpires are expensive, the equipment's expensive. We've managed over the course of years to upgrade our facility. We have the best facility in the Upper Peninsula. We have 4 baseball fields that are kitty corner of each other. We keep the greens, it's all volunteer. We put brand new dugouts in the last 2 years for the girls softball team. We put new dugouts in for the Legion and junior and senior field. That's come out of our pockets, and we fundraise for everything like that. We do fundraisers and that. We had a fight for chalk this year. Sometimes we didn't have chalk, and usually the city always supplied us with chalk. Because basically, we do all the grass cutting down there, all the trim work and everything. So the city basically supplies us with chalk, and they turn the water on and off, and they take care of our water and our sewer systems. So we've had an agreement for 40 years with the city, and we got let down on this light pole. Like I said, we don't know how much it's gonna cost, and through other people that I know that are attorneys also said that we, as a Little League, cannot touch that light pole because it's anchored in, and there's too much of a risk for insurance-wise for us to take that light pole off. There are people that probably would do it for a reasonable rate, but I'm just asking the city to we have brand new bulbs in there. I had UPCO put brand new bulbs in there because we thought they were just burnt out bulbs. And the Nimi Electric said he would rewire it, but it has to be laying down for him to rewire it. So we'll eat the cost for the rewiring, because Nimi Electric said that they would help us out financially with that part of it for Little League. I don't know how much it is or nothing like that, but like I said, in this city, I've grown up my whole life. I've been coaching baseball for 37 years, okay? And I never had any issue with the city until this year. You got all your guys that are running around like crazy people. They're not happy. I've run into that because I'm down there. I've been out at the field for 82 days straight. I was down there. They got guys running here. They got it running there. You can't. There's no. And then I found out that they got rid of the supervisor also. And I understand Mr. Gugini is hired as the city manager, not the city supervisor for the Parks and Rec Department. So you got some bad morale going on there. And a lot of these guys I grew up with and know, and a lot of them have their applications in SCCI right now. And I guess the other thing I want to touch on is when you don't want to pay them overtime for snow plowing to save a few bucks. We only had about 4 snowstorms last year. And I, as a parent, I have a child in 8th grade and one in sophomore. And I tell you what, when you guys are running, not paying them overtime, and you're running them city plows up 3rd Street, you got about at least 100 kids walking on 3rd Street, and you're all over the place because the plows are there, because they're not plowing when they should be plowing. That's something you gotta think about. I mean, it's not gonna break the bank. We've been through worse storms ever. But that's all I have, my peace of mind. And like I said, I'm hoping you guys can work with me on this light pole. I mean, we're the only facility up here in Marquette County with lights for our junior senior field. And like I said, we hosted a state tournament up here for the juniors. And we're just fortunate that we had a couple teams drop out and not play, or we would have been forced to. So it's just simple stuff, you know? And it's all I ask for, a little cooperation. I don't ask for much. We take care of everything down there. You know, if you guys go down there and look, we even put a new press box up there for the junior senior Legion field this year. So, you know, and it's expensive. It's expensive to run Little League, and our Little League is expanding. We're getting kids from Nagani, from Gwyn. We always had kids from Republic, so it's just something to think about. We want to keep growing and not go the other way, and we try to do everything we can. We're a small board. There's only 11 of us on there, so just that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Harry, before you sit down, if I could, went in so many directions, I didn't get which field it was.
It's the junior senior Legion field. There's 3 teams that play on there: the juniors, the seniors, and the Legion field. And then we used to have, last year when the lights worked, we used to have the semi-pro teams play up in there. You know, the teams that play in the UP in Wisconsin, like the Michigan League. So, but we don't have any lights for them, and their games are 9 innings. So it's we lost some of that, you know.
All right,
And we 2 years ago, the other thing is we did 3 years ago, we put a new rubber roof on the concession stand too. So I mean, it's not like we're spending our money wisely and we can, but like I said, I just some things just get overwhelming for all of us. That's all. Anybody have any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm a new face. I'm Denise Hegner on 3rd Street. And I would like to address something called boondocking. It's basically parking wherever you are and camping. It's very popular right now with the van culture. I'm aware of it. I've done it out of state, but I've done it in state parks because it's allowed. It's BLM land. However, I had a RV, a humongous RV parked in front of my home. It also had a trailer with a car parked, and they were visiting somebody down on 3rd Street. They parked there and they blocked my entire side of my home. I have a very rare health condition that I actually have to leave the state to get treated. There's only 2 doctors in the US that take care of what I have. And so I need medical attention, and they need to be able to access me. That vehicle, that RV, blocked my egress. I called the police. From that moment on, they were knocking on my doors and windows at 2 or 3 in the morning. I have cameras, I know it was them. I did not bother the police because I know who it was. However, the police department told me that there was nothing that they could do. However, there are parking laws restrictions. So I felt that there was something they can do, and I did bring up some other Michigan laws of parking. They decided, I believe, after speaking to the police, and I've had great interactions with our department, I've had no complaints whatsoever, but I felt like they felt that they had their hands tied. But there's bigger things outside of Ishpeming that they could have addressed with this parking. And so they ended up moving to my neighbor's house. And they used their front sidewalk, which is their egress, and they were less than 300 feet from their emergency exit, as their front porch for this RV. And our RVs have been now legally considered homes. So they now had their home on somebody else's home's egress. Literally, their sidewalk to get out of the house, they used it as theirs. And they were locking 3 Dutch hounds in that RV every day, and they were howling. This was an issue, and I think it's an issue that you, as our representatives, need to address, because when I asked the officer to tell them to at least move down the road, because there was, at the end of Third, there was open parking, they said, no, that's city property. Well, so is the street that I was on. Park Street, Third Street, that's public city, as well. So it's something that kind of, it's not a big deal normally, and I know homeowners park their RVs in their property on the street, but they don't have a week and a half people from out of state, South Dakota specifically, come and park in somebody else's property. And I think it's something that needs to be addressed with the police department of what all you can do to remove those people. It put myself in danger. The person across the street is handicapped. It put him in danger when they moved. And it put the people further down next door in danger because they blocked not only their emergency, but their egress, and no ambulance, no squads, nothing could have been able to park. So I think it's something that needs to be brought up and discussed. Thank you.
Thank you. And I think as Jason just said, that is something that has been brought to our attention recently, so.
I just had a separate one brought to my attention this week, so.
There are numerous laws that have been
Yeah.
passed in regards to it. I just think that our police need to be educated on those so that they don't feel like they're helpless. Because
Yeah.
they've been amazing, and I did ask them to move, which is what I needed, but then it put 2 other people in danger.
Yeah, like I said, this is, I'll restate it, this is the second complaint in a week, in 2 separate areas north of Third Street for 2 separate people, so, yeah, it does have to be addressed.
All right. Is there anyone else for public comment? All right. Jim and Jason, is there anyone on Zoom that has joined that is interested in public comment?
No, I don't believe so, Your Honor.
Okay. All right, then with that, we will close public comment, and we will move on. Item number 5 is the approval of the agenda.
Your Honor, I'd like to move that we approve the agenda with a request to move the item 17 into closed session. And just for the public, excuse me, that involves wage, salary, if there's a union person involved in that discussion. So I would ask that we move it to closed session. A potential union person in the general forum. And of course, no action would be taken, just for discussion purposes.
Okay. Is there?
Yeah, I'll support that.
Okay. All right. So the motion is to approve the agenda with the change that item number 17 will be moved to closed session. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay. Then we will move on to agenda comment. So this is similar to public comment, except it is specifically limited to items that are on the agenda. And they have a limit of 3 minutes per person. So again, we'll start with Zoom. Jim and Jason, is there anyone on using the raise your hand function who would like to provide agenda comment?
Your Honor, currently, we do not have any public attendees on Zoom.
Okay. All right. Is there anyone here in the room that would like to provide agenda comment? Okay. If there is none, then we will close agenda comment and move on to the consent agenda, of which there are 4 items. So A, minutes of previous meeting, August 4th, regular and closed session. Item B, approval of disbursements. C, confirm 2021 Form L-4029. And D is to appoint Jacqueline Healy to fill the vacancy on the Housing Commission with a term expiring November of 2023.
Your Honor, I'll make a motion that we accept the consent agenda as presented.
Support.
All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, then we will move on to item number 8, the monthly financial statement report. And Mr. Lampman.
Well, thank you, Your Honor. In your packet, you have the financial statements as of August 31st, 2021. As of that date, the city had a pooled cash balance totaling $7,167,297. Of that amount, the general fund share pooled cash was $1,273,969. General fund had revenues totaling $2,357,543. Expenses of $2,150,067, resulting in a net income of $207,475 and a fund balance of $1,118,434. Major street fund share pooled cash was $1,058,286. Major street had revenues totaling $516,315. Expenses of $216,178, resulting in net income of $300,136, and a fund balance totaling $1,058,286. Local street share pooled cash was $189,828. Local streets had revenues totaling $269,714. Expenses of $211,574, resulting in net income of $58,140. And a fund balance of $190,056. The garbage fund share pooled cash was $189,004. Garbage fund had revenues totaling $488,126, expenses of $480,110, resulting in net income of $8,016, and a fund balance of $257,142. Public improvement fund share pooled cash was $678,179. Public Improvement Fund had revenues totaling $528,741, expenses of $200,480, resulting in a fund balance of $678,179. Sewer Fund share pooled cash was $1,678,939. Sewer Fund had revenues totaling $983,485. Expenses of $896,678, resulting in net income of $86,806, and a fund balance of $9,749,451, of which $846,654 was unrestricted. And finally, the Water Fund share pooled cash was $1,764,089. Water Fund had revenues totaling $1,362,170, expenses of $1,217,314, resulting in net income of $144,856 and a fund balance of $9,041,796, of which $260,241 was negatively unrestricted.
I'll make a motion that we accept the financial report as presented.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Thank you, Jim. And unfortunately for us, thank you for that for the last time. We wish you luck and great success in your new endeavors. And thank you for your time and service with the city.
Well, thank you. It's been a pleasure serving the city the last 8.5 years, and I thank you for the opportunity to do so.
Jim, it's been an honor. Thank you. You taught me a lot, took me under your wing a little bit to explain things, and greatly, greatly appreciate it, Jim. We are going to miss you. Don't be a stranger.
Oh, I certainly won't be, and I appreciate that. Thank you.
All right. Moving on then to item number 9. That is me. So I have it listed there as mayoral address and community negativity. And so I asked that this be placed on the agenda because I just wanted to take a couple of minutes to speak about basically the negativity in this town that just seems to be pervasive and really bothers me. I know it bothers other people. I think at times it really brings us down as individuals, as a city, as a community, and it's not helpful. I do want to draw the distinction and we had a couple of public comments this evening that had some legitimate concerns, and I don't mean that we don't want to hear about concerns or that I don't want to hear about concerns, things that come up that can be and need to be addressed. Some of those are safety, some of those are ordinances that can be looked at. Absolutely, and I do not mean to include or to insinuate that you shouldn't continue to provide public comment and feedback on things that truly do need to be addressed. But I do feel like there is an awful lot of things that are brought forth as rumors or allegations or falsehoods or comments that seek only to breed distrust within the city and to bring things down. And those are wasteful of resources, time, money, morale, reputation for the city. And honestly, it's kind of embarrassing. And obviously I can't make people stop, but man, if I could, I would, because it needs to stop. It bothers all of us. It bothers city staff. It bothers other elected officials. It bothers residents who see positivity and forward movement in this town. And it's unnecessary. There are some people who just seem to be making it their mission to do this. And I'd like to see it stop. It's not new. A lot of it has history. Some of the people who do it have a history of doing it. Some of the pockets of people who do it have a history of doing it. And there's probably some new people in there too. But what's not new is the fact that we aren't going to tolerate that. And again, I can't make people stop. I wish I could. But I can also choose to not pay very much attention to it. I am paying attention to it this evening because I feel like it's important to address and important to talk about and important to say that I'm not going to spend my time thinking about it in the future. If you have a legitimate complaint, absolutely. If it's not legitimate and it's a rumor and we're just doing it to be negative, I don't want to hear about it. If you are a witness to some of this, if you hear people saying things, you can tell them that I said to stop it. And I think that I have the support of everyone sitting up here with me in saying that as well. We want to see the city flourish. There's so many positive things that are happening in this city right now. And it's amazing. And if we spend all of our time looking at the negatives or looking at negatives that are untrue or negatives that we want to be true but aren't for some reason, we'll never move past that and we'll never move into the future that we need to have in this community. We look at what's been happening in all of Marquette County right now. I mean, we've had a real estate boom. Houses aren't even on the market for a day before they've got like 5 offers. It's insane. People are moving here. Houses are selling. People are fixing their houses. People are putting roofs on. They're putting new siding. They're planting flowers. There are some yards in Ishpeming that look outstanding this summer. People have spent a lot of time investing in that. New businesses are opening. There's 2 about to open on the highway. There's 2 about to open downtown. A couple more in the works. I'm not aware that we lost any businesses during COVID. I know that businesses had a rough go of things. Undoubtedly, they did everywhere. But I think some of our businesses found ways to adapt and to flourish. And that's really exciting and that's really positive. As a city, we found ways to pull through and to do not everything that we would have liked to, but we found ways to do lots of things. And I think those are all positive things that we can look at and we can, celebrate. And it's a really great time to be here. There's a lot of positives happening. Craig has been here for rounding out into his 2nd year, and good things are happening. We've got a council that, for the most part, gets along, and while we disagree, we do get along, and that's really important and really good. We haven't had any, angry outbursts, and I like it that way. I just like to see that continue everywhere else, and so, again, please just look at the positives and celebrate those positives because it's a great time to be in Ishpeming right now.
Your Honor, if I could, jump on your coattails. I completely agree with what you're saying, and the real problem to me is the people who are always looking to make trouble. It's never positive, ever. And that's not true, but people choose to pick on the negative. The city manager didn't come to us in a kit for city managers. It was a huge roll of the dice to hire Craig. The changes that he's made in the last 2 years, year and a half, or take COVID right out if you wish, are not perfect, but they've been very adapted to what's needed. If we're having employee relation problems, we've taken a guy that's regular Army and we've begun and we continue to mold him into a city manager that works with city staff. That doesn't happen overnight. I checked, there's no switch, there's no package you can buy. We have to do it, and we have. The city council has sat here countless hours going over job descriptions, and our city employees, for the most part, have been fantastic. But I still keep hearing, well, it's the city manager's not a good boss, and the city manager's not this, and I don't understand it, because from what I've seen, and I try to watch close, he's doing a great job to bend, and I mean bend. I've been in negotiations where we have flipped right over because it wasn't an important issue to us, but it was to our employees. So we said, obviously, this is important. We're going to roll on this. We're going to give it to you. And we've done that many, many times. I think we had a contract that's very fair to our employees. And as Lindsay said, we've got businesses opening all over. We got a brand new senior center. I've never been in more fights than I was in the 2 years to get that senior center. I'm surprised Elise hasn't firebombed my car. And I wish her the best in the world. And I told her that. I have a job to do. She had a job to do. The Commission on Aging, the city managers that were involved, the interim city managers that were involved. And I agree with Lindsay, the negativity is BS. It's got to stop. It serves no purpose to come here and beat up on a council person or to beat up on the city manager. It proves nothing. It serves no, if our city manager or a councillor or a citizen or a department head did something illegal, something immoral, then let's charge them. Otherwise, get off of it and either be a player or get out.
Your Honor, I would also like to step in here. I bring at minimum 3 citizen issues to Craig per week, and it is a minimum of 3. My job was constituent service in Lansing for Representative Kim Benzie, so I take that very serious. And Craig takes it very serious. And that means the world to me, because people, when they come to a council member, they expect to get a result, or they expect that their issue is going to be brought forward to at least be reviewed. And I know I'm not the only one up here that brings issues to Craig. So compound that times 4, 5, he's dealing with a ton of different issues every single week, in addition to the scope of his job. And yeah, there are issues that have to be worked out. He's new to the role of a city manager, as Councilmember Scanlon said. But I believe we owe it to him, we owe it to ourselves, and we owe it to our community to be the best we can be and ask the people in this community to be the best that they can be. And I have been the subject of rumors. It hurts. And rumors have no, I look at a rumor and I dismiss it automatically unless there is actual evidence of something. And I'm going to continue to do that because I have been subject to rumor. And I just want to say I have the backs of our employees, whether they're union or non-union. I pledge that, and I will continue to have the backs of our employees. All of them. I also have the back of our community. And I know everyone up here also has that. So I would like to see the negativity stop as well. We have so many great things going right now in this community. So I guess that's where I'm at. So I would just like to thank you, Craig.
All right, if nobody else has anything else to add, then I will add my last to the end of this. And maybe Craig will probably appreciate this because it's a military quote. It came from, I recently read a book. I love the author Malcolm Gladwell, and he has a new book out called The Bomber Mafia, and he talks about the Air Tactical, or the Air Corps Tactical School. I had to look at that again, not a military person, but their school motto was, "We make progress unhindered by custom." And I have that written on my dry erase board at work because I love it. We make progress unhindered by custom. And so I think, change is inevitable. Change is really hard for people. I think that's where some of the negativity comes from, is the city is changing. We are progressing forward. We are making a better future for ourselves. And it's hard for people, but if you think about that, we make progress unhindered by custom. And so if our custom in this case and in this context is the pervasive negativity that we've been experiencing, we're gonna make progress regardless. So it's probably better to just stop. So. All right, now that I got that off my chest, we can move on. So thank you all for the opportunity to put that out there. All right, number 10 is the installation of fire hydrant and easement for the Magnuson Hotel.
So there's, well, you all are here when I wasn't, and the country village was developed, and apparently there's been some hiccups along the way of developing the country village. I hear about it quite often from different people, whether they're in one of the buildings or whether they're driving around. But one of the issues that we have now is we may be short of a fire hydrant in the proximity of the new Taco Bell. In the past, or recent past, without Taco Bell being there, we could stretch hoses across the parking area that is now a Taco Bell to reach the Magnuson Hotel. But going forward is not a safe way of fighting fires. And so we're proposing to have, as part of this new development and moving forward, a fire hydrant installed in front of the Magnuson Hotel, which would give the firefighters more direct access and centralized access between those two establishments to fight fires. It was not in a budget, but it is really important given the growth of the town and that Taco Bell being there, and the fact that our firefighters' hoses would be dragged across a new parking area that may be in operation at the time we respond. There's a lot of different parts to this, so there's different pieces in your packet, but Al has worked in zoning to, with Caroline, to establish a right-of-way with the Magnuson Hotel owners. We don't have a right-of-way for that little stretch of property where we'd want to put the fire hydrant. In order to finalize that right-of-way, we need a survey. So the top copy is $700 to work that survey piece, to dig down on the existing water main in order to do the tapping of the water main and bring that fire hydrant into service. We got an estimate from Lindbergh for $8,770. There's two ways to do tapping of a water main. One is to shut down the water service and cut the line, connect the fire hydrant, and then bring that water service back into service. And the other is what they call a wet tap, which is to keep the water flowing while you do the work. The least invasive to our businesses, including the entire country village and our restaurants that are there, is to do the wet tap. To do the other way, you're gonna have probably a 2 or 3 day shutdown to have to boil water or test water, make sure that there's no introduction of E. coli or any other kind of bacteria. A wet tap can be done while it's still flowing, and it would not stop the businesses from being able to do business while that is a connection going on. Our company that we work with for meters has a sub-company that is able to do the wet tap. They travel around the Midwest doing these wet taps. So their cost is $31.50. If I'm reading that right, yep. So we're talking about the parts for the fire hydrant themselves are almost $6,500. And then the wet tap charge is the $11.50, so it comes out to $2,627.75. And then total, we're pushing the envelope of about 16,000 between the dig, the survey, the wet tap, and the parts.
7627, not 2627, right? That's what it is.
Yes, I'm sorry, did I
Yeah.
say 26? I'm sorry.
It could be a 2.
7627. But yeah, it's an expense I think that the city should bear, but it's above my acceptance level. The surveyor is prepared to begin surveying, and we need to let them know so that we can finish that right away, so that we can do the digging and the tapping and whatnot. But I can't explain what happened before I got here and why there's not more fire hydrants and more lines through that country village, but I believe this is an important step for us. It is not budgeted, which would require a budget amendment.
Your Honor, I'll make a motion that we move forward with this. Our fire department has worked hard for decades to get a decent fire rating, and they've achieved that, and this would definitely degrade that fire rating if we were short a hydrant in a critical spot. It's probably the law that we'd have to have one there anyway.
I'll support.
And I have one other question. I don't know if Jason could answer it if he's around, Angela. Is it a East Jordan fire hydrant or is it waterless?
I have no idea. I think it's East Jordan. You'd have to ask Brad Wookie on that one.
Brad with us?
He is not, but I can.
I'm not approving it. I'm not gonna move to approve it with the waterless. Would you agree with that, Jason? The East Jordans are the round ones like we have all over town.
I'm assuming it's the same one we have everywhere around town that they would.
Okay, that being said, then I have full support.
I'm pretty sure it is.
Still?
I think we have one on the corner close enough. Why do we need another one? We have one already.
Well, first of all, so one hydrant wouldn't be enough. If that hotel did catch fire, one hydrant wouldn't be enough. And like I said earlier, that it's not really our call to make.
Can I throw this
Either
in
fire-
here?
Go ahead.
The next nearest hydrant on the west is in the middle of the parking lot in Jubilee, so it's crazy not to have one there.
What about the one that's east of Taco Bell?
If I pull a 4-inch hose off the one from east of Taco Bell, no other fire trucks can get in there because they'll have to run the hose over.
And I would add that during the time that, while the plan was being developed for Taco Bell, the owner of the Magnuson Hotel contacted me on several occasions, and access for emergency vehicles, and in particular, and part of it was access for emergency vehicles, but emergency response, the ability for emergency response to get to the hotel with increased traffic, parking, and buildings around was a major concern. And so I see this as a partial alleviation of some of that as well. And just, I mean, never mind the fact that if the fire department thinks that it's necessary, then who am I to
What had
say
happened
that
in,
it's not?
excuse me, what had happened in the old days when the village was built, it was built with private and grant money, some city money, but the hydrants throughout the village were waterless, which is an economy hydrant. A lot were busted, brand new busted. And I completely agree with what we're saying here, as long as it's the East Jordan, because we're putting quality in and it's just necessary. It's not frivolous. It needs to be there.
What's the total cost? I vote no.
The other question, the elephant in the room, is where's the money coming from?
Yeah.
I think this would be a public improvement fund, maybe.
As this is an improvement to the water system, I would recommend taking it out of the water fund.
Well, I think there was already a motion and a second for this, and I think if Kathy's math is correct, then we've gotten a total of 17,097, is that what you said?
17,097
And 75 cents, with the recommendation for that to come from the water fund.
And I just have one, answer back to Mr. Scanlon, is that it's the East Jordan Water Master. Water Master is the model.
Perfect.
All right, so that's the motion. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Roll call?
Councilmember Chapman?
Yes.
Councilmember Furby? Yes. Councilmember Scanlon?
Yes.
Councilmember Skug?
No.
Mayor Bean?
Yes.
Motion passed.
Okay, and we will move on to item number 11, is request to store firewood logs in Pine Street variable width right-of-way.
So our zoning administrator is trying to assist a family in looking at what we can do. There's a gentleman that has a disability that is needing some assistance with firewood, and he doesn't have sufficient space to store it, and is looking at the right-of-way as a potential place to store and be able to access the firewood for his home. So there's some drawings there. It's not believed to be in the way of our plowing, but we would certainly work with the homeowner to make sure that we can work around that as far as plowing issues. According to our zoning administrator, it doesn't look like there's really any kind of significant issue here. And that currently the the forest products will be helping him with firewood in the future.
Your Honor, I'm going to make a motion that we permit this request.
Support.
So I have a question. Is this, so is this logs that are going to be dropped off and then cut into smaller firewood and transferred onto his own property? Or is it logs that are stockpiled in the right-of-way and then pulled from there as they are used?
It says in the document that it would be cleared by mid-June of 2022.
Yeah, I think it's logs to be cut and then stacked, but they don't, to the size of the logs, they can't put them in the property, but once they get them trimmed down and stacked in the yard, they're out of the right of way.
Okay.
So
The problem I have with this, Your Honor, is almost every time we do a favor for somebody else abuses the heck out of it. Case in point was the campers. We've been pretty lax around town. If you want to pull your camper up in front of your house and plug it in to cool down your refrigerator before you leave, and nothing's been said. Now we got people setting up housekeeping. Again, I hope it wouldn't happen in this case. I guess I'm still willing to take a chance on people.
The other condition that I would insist on is that the property may be made back to its previous condition, because that's all grass that the city mows. So as long as it's brought back to its present condition, I think we'd be all right.
Stu?
What about the mess behind their garage? If you look at the picture, you'll see a big mess.
I was looking at that. Is that what that is? You think junk?
Looks
I
like,
so
yeah, I am,
we should make our approval contingent on that cleanup.
Have we had our inspector up there, complaints of any kind?
well, regardless of whether there are complaints about it, there is.
It's a violation.
Without, I suppose, seeing where the power lines go in, because that can play a role in dumping of materials. But this property does appear to have ample property to house those logs. And what I am in favor of helping someone who needs property or who needs space to accommodate their needs, and especially someone with a disability. What I'm not in favor of is allowing city property to be a continuation of excess things that are collecting on a property, because I have filled my property with other things and not deemed it a priority that my firewood go there, doesn't mean that I can request that the city give me additional property for which I might put my firewood on. So I'm having a hard time with this one.
I was looking at that myself, and I think next door, that might be a garden. But that, couldn't identify, I thought maybe it was a garden spot, but I guess I got to agree with Councilman Skug. It's a mess.
I mean, it's hard to tell on this photograph what are vehicles and what are buildings, or what might be some sort of, it almost looks like metal storage containers. But if I have a piece of property and I have filled it and now I would like more property, I don't think it's very fair to the taxpayers or the neighbors that then have to look at the log pile, who may already be looking at a messy property or a full property to begin with.
Google Earth isn't always up to date, it's not saying it's not.
Yeah. That is an excellent point, thank you. Well,
I mean,
but at the end of the day, it is a sufficiently sized lot. And even if I suppose it wasn't a sufficiently sized lot, my lot is not sufficient for me to build another garage, but I'd like to have another garage. It doesn't mean that I'm gonna ask the city if I can put even a temporary shed on city property.
I do want to point out, though, I don't really see how you could get logs, full-size logs on that property unless you take away their parking, just because of the way the buildings look to be positioned. And I'm having a hard time with it too, but it is for what, a disabled person, that this is gonna be kind of a.
Well, it says he has a disability, but I don't know the basis. And, I don't represent the resident in this case from the standpoint of financial status, capabilities, but I mean, you can buy split logs and have them poured in a pile and somebody can stack them for you, versus buying full logs, having somebody cut them and split them and stack them. So, I mean, I don't know why they chose what they chose, right? The choices is, but I do agree with Mr. Scanlon in that we find ourselves often trying to help and make an accommodation, and then it becomes a precedent setter, and then the next person wants the exact same thing. Well, you did it for them, why can't you do it for me? So I think whatever you choose, if you choose to support, we'd have to clearly define why. I'm not sure logs need to sit there till the middle of June. It seems really I mean, it's well beyond the winter season for logs to be sitting there, so I don't know,
If it is a temporary dropping of logs so that they can be processed in a timely fashion to be used for this winter and stored on the property, if we're looking at a window of a month or maybe tops 2, then I would be in favor of considering it. But firewood is not pretty. I like firewood, I like log fires. I'm not knocking log fires, but firewood does not look good, and especially not in large logs like that. And so in an effort to keep our city looking as nice as it can be and to not be adding to essentially blight, which unfortunately firewood is not pretty. Yeah, I don't like this idea.
The picture on my hunting app actually is more messy than the one that we have in the packet. And that being said, I will withdraw my motion pending further investigation. I don't think that there's a camper there on the side of the lot where they could almost put it on their own property. Looking at this on what would be the right side of the lot, that's an RV. So there's a parcel, a strip down the whole 3/4 of the lot toward the backyard.
There are lots of resources in this city if people need help with having, if it's a disability, no disability. I think there are resources in churches and community groups that can help to clean up property, that can help to move logs, but I don't think it's the place of the city to provide somewhere for those to be put.
My suspicion would be that if that mess has been there for any length of time, the other mess is gonna tend to stay. So I would formally withdraw my motion. I don't know who supported it.
That was me, and I will agree with you.
Okay. Then.
As I said, pending further investigation, if the case can be made better, come on back.
Okay. Then we take no action on that request?
Correct.
Okay.
How about if we make a motion that rental inspector do report back to us?
Is it, if it's not a rental, then I don't know why the.
It would be,
Okay.
I don't think we need to make a motion, but I wouldn't disagree that we
Yeah.
can have the manager and the chief send them up there and for sure.
Okay. All right, then we move on to number 12 is recommendations from the Parks and Recreation Commission for amendments to the 2021 fee schedule. And I can speak a little bit to this as I was on the Parks and Recreation Commission, and we had a lengthy discussion about this at our last meeting. And so these amounts that are changed, that are highlighted, were not arrived at without lots of discussion and heavy debate back and forth about either raising them. There was a lot of discussion about raising the fees higher. There was input from city staff on what the break-even rates were for the events for lodges, rentals, and the tube slide. Personally, I was in favor of higher rates. And staff did present some comparable rates from other, like the tube slide in particular, from
Gladstone, I think.
Gladstone. And there was a lot of discussion about what it costs to, send a kid somewhere for an all-day activity. In the end, part of the decision was also based on the previous, like the tube side's just the top one on here, so that's the one that I'm looking at. But the previous rate was $8 per day. And there was discussion about moving it to 10 or 15. And the 10 and 15 in part were because they are round dollar amounts that don't require singles. to make change, which makes it easier for staff and well, largely for staff, so you don't have to run out of ones or go get ones, which is always a pain, especially on a weekend. So that's why the discussion largely revolved between 10 and 15 for that specific reason. Although I think in a maybe a more perfect world, I would have thought 12 or 13 would be a better number, but I know that creates I don't know. So anyway, so these numbers were all hotly debated.
Your Honor, I'll make a motion that we go along with the board's recommendation.
I will add for discussion purposes that there was also comments about seeing how the raising of prices went this year and then looking to raise again next year to sort of like catch up a bit. Because most of these prices are just barely bringing us above break even. We were at a break even or a loss previously, and so now we're at a break even or maybe a hair above. And so if we were to increase rates again next year, maybe to the amounts that we had been looking at, then we would be much better in the black in future years.
Pending support to my motion, had two questions. The tube slide, the limit for the group rate is scratched out, the 1 to 60 people.
Yes.
And the 61 and over, so are we just unyielding there?
There's just
okay. What is
a group rate. There was, apparently some people are not 100% honest and say that their group is going to be under 60 and then closer to 100 people show up. Apparently that happens with some regularity. So it was proposed to just eliminate that lower tier fee. And again, it still requires, so it doesn't require the same amount of staff. A smaller group could be staffed with fewer people, but then when a larger number of people show up, then you're short on staff. And so they would just staff it the same. And then that doesn't run at a loss on staff because the rate is the same.
I got a bit of a tough time agreeing with the policies getting abused, so we take off the brakes. I think we need to figure out a way to limit it, because if you go between 60 and say 100, you've created a certain amount of unsafe tubing. You know, we're set up for 60. I don't even know how many tubes we have anymore. I still think we should have a maximum number, and if we have to enforce it, enforce it. Not say, so now they might say, well, we were getting away with 100, let's go up a few.
Well, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, anybody, I don't know. Claudia's on the Parks and Rec Commission as well. I think that when you've hit the certain number of people, it's more a matter of how long you have to wait in line, and less about how many, you could stack people up at the top, but all 100 people are not going down at the same time. There's still somewhat of a limit on how that can happen. Just the way it works. Yeah. So the greater the number of people, at some point it's detrimental to your group because you just have to wait.
And the Alqual and St. Rocco Pavilion. St. Rocco is highlighted. Are we saying both of those pavilions are included in that price? That's what I'm saying. Oh, we've included it. Does that, you get them both for the price? Or are they each?
That's what they are each, I believe. Claudia, was that your, okay, yes.
Okay. That's all I had.
I think before we just didn't have one listed, so it's now listed.
All right, so we had a motion, a fair amount of discussion. Is there support? Okay. So all those in favor of adopting the amendments to the 2021 fee schedule as recommended by the Parks and Rec Commission, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay. All right, and number 13 on the agenda is Lake Superior Community Partnership Decision Brief.
So we have Sarah with us, and Sarah, would you like to stand or would you like to sit as we go through this? It's up to you, because I mean, it's a shared, okay, on the bottom, if you would turn the mic, so it's got a green dot on it instead of a red dot. So the council, did you need a copy of this? So the council asked Sarah and I to start looking at what a contract might look like between LSCP and the city. And this is by no means that product. This was starting to look at the options and sort of steer the council to having clearer ideas of the decisions that we would ask you to make. And so in not trying to read through a packet, what we were looking at is planning, marketing, and other opportunities from slide 2. And then we kind of broke that out into different groups under that. And so this is sort of like a menu. And if you look at it and read it from the perspective of a menu, it's what would you like to get for your money, and call it an a la carte, right? So there's a bunch of opportunity for planning and where those might fit. And then there's a bunch of opportunity for marketing, and then there's a bunch of opportunities beyond that for grant writing and other kinds of opportunities. So if we were to build an a la carte menu for the council, what would you like to see from the LSCP in order to move forward into a more specific, smart-oriented contract where we can show deliverables? And so what we're kind of asking to do is look at these pages 3, 4, and 5 and kind of together pick and choose what that menu might look like if you were to make an order today, so we can start defining more what the scope of the contract would look like. And then I'll just draw your attention back to the last page. Well, we're talking about under measurements now comes on slide 7. That's kind of where we would be focusing on that SMART and what it might look like. But the final outcome, which is not tonight, would look something like 3 different choices to make in the end, where we could establish a baseline based on the menu items you choose, and then you could go up or down based on those up and down choices. The cost of that contract would change. And so gave you sort of a hit point where that might be, and then give you some ideas. And then there's some discussion in here about the difference between outsourcing and insourcing. So I'm looking at LSCP as sort of a way to outsource some challenges we've had, marketing and planning. Whereas if we insourced, we would be hiring somebody. So then you're talking about salary and fringe and other things, you know, applications, reviews, interviews, and picking the right person that has enough skills in one of those things. Where LSCP has folks in some of these areas, they may end up needing to round themselves out, but then they would agree within that contract that they could provide the services that you're looking for out of the menu items you've chosen. So we're just kind of looking that maybe you could give us some choices back, and whether it's tonight or whether it's, you know, consolidated effort back in another session is up to you how you want to do that. I just wanted to get the document in front of you and then give Sarah an opportunity to kind of address any kind of questions you have as well regarding how we're structuring. This is what Sarah and I thought was the best way to do it. Put it into a way that you can look at it, make some decisions, give us some feedback, and then build that final product that you're looking for. And then LSCP can then, based on those menu items, come up with what the cost would be for that. Sarah, do you have any comments you'd like to add?
I think that was a really good overview, just for the city council's benefit. Craig and I have talked a number of times about how we might be most useful at LSCP for the goals that the city is working towards. And we know that there's a lot of things on your plate. And, you know, some of the points that were made in the conversation earlier tonight, it's really difficult to be proactive and to deal with the entire scope of all city services, while at the same time looking towards the future and towards economic development when you have limited staff and limited resources. And so I've worked in a number of other communities this size and smaller that have also had the same constraints on capacity, where we were able to bring contractual support and services to the community to meet very specific goals. And I think I might have talked about that the last time I was here. Craig and I had kind of a similar idea of how that might work under contract, but where we really need help is sorting out which things are priorities for the city right now, because I think there is so much potential in front of the city right now, so many opportunities. Which is the direction we want to go, and where do you want to focus, and maybe most importantly, how much does the city want to invest in something like this? So, like Craig said, I'm here to answer any questions and maybe talk through some of the mechanics or some of the ideas on the priorities that you might have, but really just kind of wanted to hear your thoughts on how you see this working.
Yeah. I think, and I looked over and I saw Jason has some marks on his as well. Looking at these and thinking about it as like a la carte sort of thing, I think is helpful. And so in looking through these, I think there are some that stand out as things that absolutely we need help on and are sort of outside of the core things that we have. I mean, they're all important, but some of them are more core than others. So if I'm looking at the planning page here, and we've got redevelopment ready community, future planning, processes, policies and procedures, and blight mitigation. In my mind, I think the top two, redevelopment ready community and future planning, are less centralized to, and I don't even like the way that sounds, because they are essential. But I think that processes, policies, and procedures and blight mitigation are like, we should be addressing those ourselves. I mean, it'd be fantastic if we had help too, but right, like, we probably have to make some decisions along the line somewhere. Probably not gonna get you're not gonna do everything we ask you to do, at least not for a price that we're willing to pay. But so I would think that like the top two on there, those two, future planning and redevelopment ready community, would be like my choice of.
I'd like to speak to the redevelopment ready community stuff, because I did do a little bit of work with the Village of Newberry and the redevelopment ready community stuff when I was in Lansing, and it is definitely a positive program through the state. So I do like that one. That's something that I think where we are now in Marquette County would be really beneficial to the city of Ishpeming. We have, the Shopko store is now going to be occupied shortly. So I definitely like the top two as well. I have to echo what Lindsay's saying. Blight mitigation is something that we need to work on as a city. I think that is something we have to own, and we have to get a concrete plan in place as a city. So the same as the processes, policies, and procedures. I think, again, I agree with you, Your Honor, that's something that we have to own. But
Your Honor, the blight mitigation strategies, it would be great for us to own it, but we don't have much of a checking account. So I would say if Sarah and her people can say, here's how we're gonna fund some of that.
Okay.
You know, let's not close the door on anything. The RRC, through my own investigation with yourself and with the manager, I understand it a little bit, but I think we need to discuss that as a group. And maybe we could have Jason explain to us what we need, is it positive and what will it bring to us? I would like to recommend or suggest, can't believe I'm gonna do this, that we use our second meeting option. And we get together as a council at 6 and ask Sarah to come at 7 or 7:30. Us do our due diligence, sit with the plan, the presentation, and discuss it a little bit ourselves. and then have Sarah come in for the second half of the meeting. And, you know, it would be a meeting, but it would also be a work session, agenda of this.
I agree with you.
Because there's a lot of things that I think, under the new leadership, I think that they're gonna bring to the table that we haven't had in the past. So I don't wanna take it too lightly. I mean, everybody, I'm sure everybody at this table looked at 50 large and said, that's not doable. You don't really know. You know what I mean? Why is that too much money to spend?
I didn't say that.
No, but I'm thinking, when you see
think that-
50,000, if you're like
Yeah.
me, your guts go, ugh.
Yeah, I definitely, my head spun a little bit on that, but I also sat back and looked at this and thought, well, at the ones I put a star on, you know, if we can get that, it would be worth it.
So
I mean,
there
you
is
have to-
quite a menu there.
Yeah, there is quite a menu here, and I mean, if we somehow were able to get all of this for $50,000, that would be amazing. It would be like the best spent $50,000 ever. You guys would be like magic workers.
Your Honor, it's in here and it says 50 grand.
I don't know that there's
Well,
signatures anywhere on this.
let me save
wishful-
Sarah on that. I mean,
wishful.
we threw out a number, Sarah and I, and pretty much that's my number, just throwing out in contrast to what it would cost to hire somebody, right? So I told you right from my get-go that I think we need a planning person in this city. And to hire somebody, even if you paid $50,000, you're still, with fringe and benefits, you're still pushing $100,000 a year to have that person employed. If we took and we started biting off chunks and we used a new partnership that we didn't really have a strong partnership with before, that outsourcing concept gives you an option of contractual obligation that gives you a planning resource. Maybe you don't get the full planning resource. You only get 2 items out of that, or 2 blocks out of that, right? You're getting something that you can test drive.
Yes.
You hire somebody, you don't get a test drive. You get them their probationary period and then they're in. And then it's a long-term commitment and you're double that $50,000 going forward. So I think this is a good, it was a planning factor to help you understand the difference between insourcing, outsourcing, and what this might shape out to look like. And again, that à la carte menu, we haven't talked numbers, honestly. We haven't tried to figure out what the time is, you know, how many man hours or person hours it is to achieve these things. But we started talking through it. I've given Sarah access to our Trello board. Our Trello board is one of those things that Mr. Scanlon and Lindsay saw when they were working with me last year. But I believe we gotta get Chris Germain on, give you a quick little lesson in RRC, and then show you our Trello board and what that might mean. And so these are the things that we have left in order to achieve success, which is not really that far of a cry, but there's a couple things that are kind of out there that they might just be, find a good source and borrow it and make it ours. And having the time to research that and figure it out and then to work through it and get it done would be huge savings on the city staff.
I don't necessarily like the term outsourcing in this because I think this is more of an actual partnership. So I guess the terminology for me is that.
Well, it's true, I agree with you, but I don't look at it that way. I look at it this time as we are gonna have a partnership. If there's outsourcing, it's gonna be them. You know, they're gonna have to, I assume that you haven't done this with anybody else yet.
Not to my knowledge, has the LSCP done this with anybody else?
Right.
In my professional experience prior to coming here, I have. And so I guess I would add, I think all of your points are really good. And one of the things that Craig and I talked about, you know, to your comment that if we could get all of this for $50,000, that would be a miracle. I agree. And I don't want to overpromise and underdeliver. And so what Craig and I have talked about is how do we figure out what's measurable, particularly when a lot of the activities in here are really difficult to achieve in 1 year. So we can do our best to create some of the plans or the documents that are required for the RRC, but they can get caught up in politics too. And so we might not be able to show a finished adopted product, just depending on what happens. So we want to be really careful about how we phrase any of our activities and make sure that it's an acceptable deliverable, that we can actually show progress. not overpromise.
Yeah, and the RRC is something that we will need to partner with probably our state legislators on. That is something that's a big bite. But I also, I look through this and I look at what options we have, and I look at, I think there will be automatically some publication and promotion in here and some branding with no matter what we choose. So I kind of think a lot of it is going to spill over into some of the other menu options, but yeah.
Does that make sense to you for us to, a couple weeks?
It does, yes, because I'd love the opportunity to talk with you about some of these activities and try to get a sense of what's most important and why. I have obviously a lot of thoughts. I agree that RRC is really important. It's worked really well for communities that have gone through that process, and I think has brought them more resources ultimately, but it does take a lot of time. It is a big lift, and so just kind of understanding the commitment to that, and some of the benefits of the promotion and marketing, I think would be helpful to talk through, and so I really like that idea, and would be happy to come back and sit down and work through more details if that's the.
Another thing that I would ask during that is which things on the menu you already can do. And some you might have to set up for, I'm sure some you do.
Yeah.
So we can give you advance notice. Well, we'd like to look at this. You're not prepared, we can't afford it, but we'd like to go in that direction, so.
That's a great point. And actually, there's the likelihood that we would be hiring a new person that would provide some of this support. And so we would want to be sure that we were getting the right skill sets when we make that hire. The other thing that Craig mentioned in this document, which I think is really helpful, is that and you just said it, we might have to outsource for some of this. And so if it's something that's way outside of our wheelhouse, but I think we think is really important to getting this done, like maybe like schematics or a site plan or something for a park, that's something that would likely have to be contracted, and we'd have to talk about how we want to approach that. Because we don't want to get too far afield from what it is that we typically offer. But
I'm sorry.
I was gonna ask along the same lines, is like, which of these items are you like most excited about, or do you feel that you already have the skill sets, or you can easily get someone who has them? Because if we're all like, yeah, that one's the one that none of us want to work on, and here you do it, like, that makes it harder for you, and you don't, we want to set you up for success as well. So if you have something and you're like, man, that one, we've got that nailed, please let us have it, like, take it, So I feel like that could help us in our joint decision-making about that as well.
Sure, I can maybe start to answer some of that now, but I think the obvious ones right now that we have the capacity for are the marketing and promotion. And I think that doesn't pack as much punch, I guess, is that to say those words doesn't really get to the impact that it could have. To the comments earlier tonight about some of the rumors and the negativity, I think that there's an opportunity to be really proactive in the information and really transparent with what's happening, and being deliberate about that and how you communicate with the community, I think can have a really positive impact on some of those conversations. So that's one that I think that we could help with right out of the gate. Another couple that are listed on here are around partnerships and grant opportunities. And Craig has listed a few of the state and federal programs that are open right now. And these may or may not be a fit for some of the city's priorities, but I think the moral of the story here is that we have a really unprecedented opportunity in terms of new public investment in local governments right now. And so to position the city to be able to take advantage of that, I think is really important. And that's something that we have the capacity to do right now. The other thing is some of the partnerships that Craig listed around working with other organizations like Iron Ore Heritage Trail, some of the conversations that we've had with other local governments about housing are things that we do and can continue to do, and can maybe provide some enhanced services, just depending on what your priorities are. there's, there's opportunities right now for grant funding to enhance the trail systems, and we've talked about having more education and maybe developing some best practices around blight enforcement in collaboration with other local governments in the county. And so those are things that we'd really like to push forward. Some of the RRC stuff we have the capacity for right now, it depends on a specific activity, because it's a pretty big range of stuff that they're asking for. But that's the kind of, having looked at the travel board with Craig and having had some experience with these activities in other communities, they're very doable. I mean, you don't have the big ones in front of you. So that wouldn't be a huge, I don't want to say it would be a huge lift, because it takes a lot of time, like I said, but we can, I think, find the right person and the right skill set to make that happen.
Yeah, like the redevelopment ready community, I mean, that's literally a program we would go through the state, and there's like graduating steps, literally graduation for the city. Yeah, there's a lot of Build Back Better money from the federal government too that is out there.
The thing that really gets to me, and even when I was on council the first time years ago, is the state and federal government have eroded our funding. And they've taken it and then they said, we'll give you back a little bit, but you gotta jump through all these hoops.
Yeah.
And RRC is a huge one.
Yeah.
But the beauty of the partnership as it's going to be is you can help this city, that city, the other city. You have members, so we don't have to redevelop the RRC entrance program.
Right.
We can have you help us with that because you gotta help Nagani and Marquette and, and I think that's where the real value is gonna be. And a true partnership, not just on the seal.
Yes.
Absolutely. And I think one other point to make related to that is one of the things that frustrates me about working with local governments and the state and with federal dollars for that matter is the communities that get the most public investment are those that invest in the capacity or that have the resources for the capacity to apply for those dollars and administer those dollars. And so smaller communities or those with fewer resources really don't get the investment that they need, even though their need may arguably be a lot greater. And so I think having a partnership of communities and organizations to position cities like Ishpeming and Nagani so that they can access those dollars is really important.
I know that, like you mentioned, grants and availability, Craig has got grants where I thought it's not gonna happen. And we've got many, many grants that we wouldn't even consider.
Yep.
So it's probably just the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it takes money to make money.
Yeah.
It's, but if you think of it as an investment with a payback, and maybe a longer term payback, but it does eventually come back around.
That's usually the case. You have to spend some money to make some money.
Yep.
Yeah.
You gotta spend money on your house to increase the value of your
Look at
house.
return on investment. I should make that a motion that we have a council meeting in 2 weeks
Support.
at the prescribed time.
Sorry.
And I do I think that the ones that you touched on, the points that you touched on are all within ones that I had sort of starred as I think that those would be good to focus on. So I think we're in pretty good alignment of where your resources, expertise, and excitement are versus where I think we recognize some of our greater need would be with outside help.
Going back to our COVID chart, your COVID chart, I'm going to use the red, yellow, green and prioritize it simply that way.
Yep.
And make some order of it.
Mr. Sandlin, you asked for a meeting in 2 weeks. I'll be at the MML conference that week.
Oh, yeah.
So if we could push it to the last week of September.
Sure.
That would be 3 weeks.
So that makes it the 29th,
That would be the.
Wednesday, the 29th?
Correct.
Okay.
That will be, yeah, because actually I will be in Ann Arbor that previous week at the hospital.
So the 29th.
Okay.
29th, yeah.
So we'd be looking at the 29th
Work for you?
at 6 of,
29th of September, does that work for you?
Yeah.
and so then we would meet at 6 and then we would ask you to come at 7. I think that would be
It's a deal.
reasonable.
Long day, but yeah, it'll work.
Try not to have you sit around for too long while we just talk and
Well, it
bring you
was-
in when it's necessary. If you want to come at 6, I suppose you could come at 6
No,
if you
it's-
want
It was
to.
actually really helpful to sit and hear the conversation tonight, so.
Okay.
But I'll plan on, Craig and I will touch base beforehand, and I'll plan on the 29th.
Okay.
At 7.
Anything else for Sarah? We'll let her.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Well, thank you.
Sarah.
I really appreciate this opportunity. I'm really excited by it. I think there's a lot of potential for it. And I also really appreciate your quote earlier tonight about unhindered by custom.
We make progress unhindered by
Yes.
custom.
And it's one of the things I like to say is, if you always do what you always did, you always get what you always got. And this is something different, and I think we'll like what we see out of it. So, thank you.
Yes.
Thanks, Sarah.
Thank you. Okay. That moves us on to number 14. Item number 14 is license with Negaunee Ishpeming Water Authority to drill test well for water in the Alcohol Recreation Area.
So Steve Martinak came to me and said, hey, have you seen this? And it handed me something that's several years old. And I said, no, I haven't. But the bottom line is that over time, even the lake lodge down at the bottom of the hill by the tubing hill was placed in a way where we covered or hindered access to a wellhead that was there. Unintentionally, I believe, but it has created some challenge for Niagara, and they hope to, in their capital investment strategy planning, have a new well that can deliver additional resources of water. And so they want to explore a test well. And then if that test well was to prove the things they need in order to generate the water that they hope to generate, then it would come with additional capital investment from Niagara, which would include new water mains through the park and into the city street, and then across Ishpeming and in the township to their plant, and then future water source. So this was a compilation, I think. Kathy, didn't we figure that David Savu was the attorney at the time on the original version? So it's been a couple of attorneys ago when this was started. We looked at it with Caroline. Caroline made a few recommendations. We went back to Niagara. Niagara accepted all of those recommendations. I don't think they even came back with any additional recommendations. And so they went to their board and said, yeah, we agree that this would be a good starting point as a lease agreement for the test well. Caroline and I and Kathy kind of dug through it, and Caroline's review was that this is a sufficient lease for a test well. So at this point, I think it's just prudent of us to allow them to determine whether or not our long-term water source would be sustained with a new well, and let them discover it is or isn't, I guess, through this test well process, and then let them discover whether or not there will be future enhancement. They would, and anything through Alcohol, just to be clear, would have to follow existing water rights of way because of the restrictions of the land already and not wanting to impact the park. There is some water lines running through and sewage lines already running through that they would parallel within that right of way. It wouldn't be a new impact to the Alcohol. It would just be following that, should they ever get to that point. But we don't know whether they'll get to that point or not without getting to this first step.
Connor, I'll make a motion that we direct yourself and the city clerk to enact the license to drill the test well at Alcohol Recreation Area.
Support.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
A question for the city manager.
Sir.
How many wells are in the city of Nagani?
Yeah, I don't have that answer for you. I can ask.
Stu's got it.
Stu
but
knows.
If you could ask, just to, I always wonder why we're drilling all the wells on our land.
Because the plant is there.
The plant's on our
The
side.
water plant.
Oh, okay, I
The
got
plant's
you.
on our side.
So they
of the
try
lake.
to stay closer.
Minimize, I mean, you're
Good.
talking about
That's-
the water line.
that's all I was
going
just
under the ground
curious.
Is pretty substantial, I guess.
There's no rock around here or anything that you have to get stuff through.
You're right.
All right, on to number 15, emergency sewer repairs by A. Lindbergh and Sons for Second Street and the alley between First and Second Street.
So we have already covered, by decision of the council, the paving, because we got that quote sooner than we got this quote, but this is for that alley repair. Lindbergh did a time and material. They also assisted us, but did not charge us for markups in us working directly with Superior Paving rather than them contracting Superior Paving and automatically marking up. So they worked really well with us from the standpoint of cost and material pricing, going that direction towards Second Street and then finding the hindrance of water table above everything that we were working on, drove it up a little bit and in time and material. But the end game was this $78,000 that would be charged back to the sewer fund as a budget amendment.
Your Honor, with the manager's explanation, I would recommend that we so move and bump that back to the sewer fund.
Support.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Number 16 is the addition to the traffic control orders per the Uniform Traffic Control Code. Remove yield and add stop signs.
It's actually a little embarrassing that it took this long to see it, but I was in my travels a few months ago, driving down Cedar and Division and noticed that it was just a yield sign coming out onto Washington, which is kind of a major street. And it shocked me. I couldn't believe there was just yield signs there and not stop signs. So Elder Brad, he changed them, and obviously by our ordinance, we need to permanently change them in our ordinance, and that's why this is in front of you today.
Your Honor, I'll make a motion that we go along with the recommendation from who's our traffic control person now?
So the streets administrator is myself. And then we rely heavily on Steve and Brad for recommendations
Okay.
related to traffic enforcement, traffic control measures. But technically, right now, I'm the streets.
Gotcha. So direct to have these changes made and put in place.
Support.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. We did move item number 17 to closed session, which then does bring us to number 18, which is old business. We'll start this way. Mr. Scanlon, do you have any old business?
I have none, Your Honor.
Diz? Stu?
Yeah. Corner of Oak and West Empire.
Yeah,
That's all right.
the corner of Oak and Empire, where the school had to have the line put in.
Yeah, so that's I get the name of the group wrong, Capital Investment, Capital something group. Jim Bertucci is one of the folks that's on that. They were looking at doing an individual paving project with Superior that was over $27,000. They were asking the city to help invest in that. They had most of their donations, but not all of their donations. Working with UPEA on the totality of Empire Street and including to Oak now with the future of the water with that MDOT grant. The thought was that we could put a surface down to get us through the winter And UPA was recommending a harder pack crushed stone that's not gonna give way and be like the gravel right now that's more ripply. And then Jim Bertucci came on and I think he said, I can't remember the term he used, but it was a term of dang near the same as a millings layer of like an inch of asphalt over there to get through the winter. So it sounds like they're proposing that and working with UPEA to put that surface down for the winter. And then when we do the Oak Street portion of, or yeah, to the Oak Street portion of Empire, we'll make sure that it's included in our paving at about 50% reduction in cost for that same section, and make sure it's pitched correctly and carrying water correctly, and it doesn't end up being a pond in one spot and then all new nice road on Empire Street. So we've agreed in principle, assuming that y'all are okay with that, but it's the better plan to get through the winter and not overly pay for something that we know that we have a solid foundation for the winter, and then we're gonna tear it all back up in the spring when we do a water project.
When are they going to do that?
I don't have Jim Bertucci's timeline, but I can get it. It's gonna be soon because they're running out of time, but I can get that from Jim Bertucci and send you an email.
The bigger picture there is we approved that project. Correct? That came to council this summer to extend that water line. Is that correct?
No,
I don't know.
That didn't come to this table?
no.
I think it's one of those projects that committees did it and then pretty much begged for forgiveness later.
Well, I got a lot of complaints the night of the Buzz the Gut.
You and me both.
And as I understood it, obviously I'm wrong, but I thought we gave permission for the group you're talking about, the Booster Club or whoever it is, to do that project complete. So now we're in a position where that should never have happened. If they didn't have the funds to do that complete, start to finish, it should not have happened.
We had a community member out there filling the holes so the
Yeah,
cars
yeah.
could go through on Buzz the Gut. So thank you to that community member.
So to Mr. Scanlon's point, I don't disagree. When I found out about it was when they needed the water shut off and we shut the water off, or we attempted to shut the water off and a water valve broke. And
Maybe that's what I was maybe
another water
communication.
valve broke, and we ended up in a boil water order because we had to fix. And then we approved the addition of a new water valve on that spot because now at least we could shut that water off because we had two broken ones that were old. But that's when I learned that project was happening, was when we were out there to shut water off. And it became a community issue, and it's absolutely one of those things that we're up against in this town with there's some really great people trying to do really great things without bringing it through the right program and processes.
Yeah, that's not acceptable.
But I think we have a path forward to secure it for the winter and get us through and then have that whole area
I
done in
agree
the
with
spring.
Councilman Skook, that should be done post haste.
And they are working that. I will get you a timeline from Jim.
Sorry.
Jason?
I'll bring it up in new business. Go ahead. Let's do it.
My old business is that at the last meeting, we had talked about an employee survey. And we have continued, Pat and myself and Craig have worked on a more thorough plan forward for that. And so it has not happened yet, although all of the pieces are in place to do it. And I think we're pretty much ready to do it. Part of that was that I was gone for a week on vacation. I came back last week, been insanely busy since then, and nobody else has had any time either. So that is, I think, pretty much ready to go.
I did chat with both union reps. We should probably, if you want to go through the process of that tonight, because I'm sure they've talked to their people.
Okay.
So if you want to just brush
Sure, right now?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So we had, I think we came up with 12 questions that we worked on between the three of us that address some specifics and then also some generalities so that we can also establish a bit of a baseline with the survey that can, so it can be administered again in the future as well and to be able to compare apples to apples. We discussed at length how to administer the survey in a way that remains anonymous and that allows employees to feel safe in that anonymity so that it would be returned to us at ideally the highest rate possible. Certainly there's no such thing, I don't think, as 100% return rate on those things so long as they're voluntary, and we definitely want it to be voluntary. So we had discussed sending them, mailing them to all employees' home addresses with a self-addressed and stamped return envelope that would come to my house. So I would be the sole collector of those. And then it is only 12 questions, so it's not terribly long, but we would be asking employees to complete that survey essentially on their own time. And so in order to offset that, because we're asking them to complete it on their own time, which is theoretically unpaid, then a Friday, I don't know that we had decided ultimately on the date, but a Friday, all employees would be, would receive, I don't know how you word that. All employees get to go home early on a Friday in order to offset that time spent taking the survey. And so if you don't take the survey, you still get to leave early. And if you did take the survey, then thank you very much. And you get to leave early and you get that time back. So that was kind of the solution that we came up with. And I think it's a pretty good
I think
path forward.
the employees were
Yes.
the first concern, period. It's to help build a better relationship with our employees, with all of management and the council. Not a point of concern that we came across, we erred on the side of caution. At one point, we said, well, we'll put boxes in the break room, put them on top. I didn't like that. I said, nobody's gonna go in the lunchroom and take one of those with the rest of the guys around. So we decided we'd send them to their home and they could return them. Well, why have them bring them back, put a self-addressed stamped envelope in the original one with Lindsay's address, so it's not coming to City Hall. And I think we answered everything. We talked about, well, some guys are gonna say, I ain't wasting a half hour of my time. So you know what, on this date, everybody goes home a half hour early with pay. Now you've been compensated. We did everything we could to make it as positive as possible. And then the follow-up obviously is gonna come after Lindsay sorts through it, is gonna come back to council. And then we'll decide where we wanna go. Do we wanna do some changes? Do we wanna follow up with another 6 months or whatever? And I think, I know we did everything we could to make it seamless and to make it positive. And I think it is going to be very good, very, very beneficial. So I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. I mean, it's, what doesn't take longer than we say it's going to? So it's taken a little bit longer, but I think we've got a very good plan, and it's just a matter, I think, of right now some envelopes, so. Anybody have any other questions on that?
Can we not advertise when we're closing the police department?
I don't know the answer to that one.
We would work out something.
Yeah, we'll work out something. The police department is closed for half an hour.
Steve's a creative chief, we can figure something out.
We did talk about that though, believe it or not.
All right, do you have any old business?
I would just like to address the right center light pole. So it wasn't flat out rejected. What was discussed was the city sent their staff out there and determined that none of the equipment we have would be capable of supporting. We thought the bucket truck might be able to help support and lower that pole. We don't have the capability. Some of the questions that came up where it appeared as if we were rejecting it is, we were told, go fix your light pole. And talking to Parks folks, we were transitioning between Timmy's retirement and Scott learning the job, and then now Caleb doing the job. We discovered that light pole isn't ours. The light pole is billed directly to the Little League. And so we said, well, that's not our light pole. We don't have the capability of lowering that light pole and doing what you're asking us to do. UPCO could, because they have equipment. But we were insisted that it was ours and that we needed to do it. So we need to figure out what we do want to do. Additionally, what was going on at that time is we had cut the Little League a break on their Little League fees. They hadn't paid them yet. We were out cleaning up trash, getting calls from folks where within the lease, the Little League is responsible for collecting trash. So we were doing a lot of things to support the Little League at the time. And being able to take a pole down and support that was not one of the things that we could do. We didn't have the capability to do. Happy to figure out a solution together, but it's going to take UPCO coming in with the right equipment to lower a pole. And they were wanting to use Mr. Nemi's business because they wouldn't have to pay UPCO to do all of the work. So I don't know what that contract would even look like. I did not approach doing a contract with UPCO on behalf of the Little League at this point. So guidance would be welcomed from the council. I'm happy to support the Little League. But what I said was I wasn't happy to take on a new expense on behalf of the city for something that isn't owned by the city.
So it would seem then that a prudent path forward would be to get a quote from UPCO on what it would cost to have that pole lowered, to have the work done, have the Little League get that quote, and then we could look at it and make a decision about costs.
Who does own it?
According to UPCO, the Little League is billed for it.
Because I think we own the stadium.
UPCO will fix it for free.
Maybe.
They will.
Well, then the first step would be to contact UPCO and have them tell somebody that.
They will.
The reason I ask is because we have ownership of that property and we lease it to the school, including the football field. So anything that's constructed there, to me, is ours. We own it. No, I'm not saying we are obligated to maintain it. I'm just saying we own it. They tried to drill a well for watering the football field years ago on my last term. And the well drilling company was there set up drilling the hole. No permission, they didn't ask the city manager, and it got into a bit of a legal rub that it's our property and they're drilling a well. They had to stop ultimately. I don't know if it was ever completed, but I know that's when I learned that that is our property. And I also think we're obligated to maintain it for myself as a taxpayer, because I don't want our baseball and football fields and our stadium falling apart. So I think we have a certain obligation, and I'd like to see us certainly work it out. But I would rather have the manager get a hold of UPCO and make it an official between the city and UPCO inquiry.
Yeah, we need to get it fixed.
And the other question that brought to mind when Harry was here is the lights on the cliff shaft. Are we still stalled on that, or do we have a path forward, or?
They have postponed that as they were looking for other solutions that didn't draw as much power, and I don't know where they're at on that.
Okay.
They have not come back. I can reach out to Bob and Craig, but
There's a light behind the stadium. It's on 24 hours a day. Was we pay for it? Who paid for it? I don't know, but it's on 24 hours a day. It's on the stadium, shines behind it.
We used to store a lot of stuff under that stadium, DPW.
Not anymore.
Yeah, so that's been trimmed back, and I think they even asked about the last items, whether or not they could remove them, so. But, and then, the 2017 wind damage to the roof, Associated has finished up that tear down of that building. I owe the pictures to Claire Wasik, and then they should be paid out for that work. They also did us some very good service and helped us with some of the scrap that was gonna have to be picked up and turned in anyway, and got rid of it, and they're working with us. They get all of the large tires. So I think there's 36 of those large tires that we inherited when we picked up the brownstone. That'll be hauled off to the basin, and Cliff's gonna accept those. So the cleanup's been going very well as far as the brownstone area and that one building, and then the ancillary stuff around it. They picked up wooden buildings that had fallen over and just were a pile of wood. They hauled that off for us and cleaned up that area pretty well. So Associated's been really good in their contract to us to clean that area up. So that is rounding up completion, pretending they're getting paid, I guess, is all really.
And that demo was done on bids?
That was, yes. Yep, that was a sealed bid, and they won the bid. And then I may be bringing something to you. So there's a shortage of 10-inch ductile iron pipe across the UP, and there's a lot of projects going on over at Sawyer and stuff, and they've not been able to find any. And we have in our stockpile of stuff we found on the ground, some 10-inch pipe that we don't need. And it's basically access would sit there until some rate in the future that we needed a 10-inch, which is not usually what we use. We use 8 and 12s. And so the thought is that Lindbergh may want it and may offer us a at-market solution, which may be some road work or cash payment for some stuff because they're having trouble. So if they do propose that, I'll let you know. If not,
How much do we have?
I don't know the actual number of feet right now.
Quite a bit though, isn't it?
It's not so much. The majority of the stuff we have is the stuff we need, the 8s and 12s. But there are some sticks of 10 that we might not need. And so since there is a shortage, since they work with us and since they need it and we have it, I would bring back what their proposal is to buy and what they work with GEI to say what the actual market rate is, and then decide if you want to dispose of it that way or if you want to go through a different way of disposing of it, which would be, putting it out and bidding. But we have a shortage in our community. We have people that are looking for it to do work across the county, and it's a way to support the county with it rather than just selling it to some. So I don't know what that looks like yet. I don't know if they're actually going to propose it. Just want to give you that heads up. So that's all I have for old business.
Does anybody else have any old business? Okay, move on to new business. Pat, do you have any new business?
None.
Stu, do you have any new business?
Oh.
Jason?
I'm gonna wait till the next meeting.
All right. Craig?
No, not this time.
I have no new business. Caroline, do you have any new business?
I don't.
I didn't ask you if you had any old business specifically.
None of that either.
Okay. Does anybody else have any new business? Okay. Then we will move on to public comment. Again.
Yep, we have one.
So our public comment at the end of the meeting is limited to 3 minutes. Yeah, we'll go to Zoom first. I'm sorry. So if Jason and Jim, if there anyone on who would like to provide public comment?
We have one attendee, Your Honor, from the public, but I do not see a hand going up.
Okay, then we will move to in person. And give us just a second to get the camera reoriented. Oh, yeah. We're live on YouTube, so.
Are we back on charter yet? There we go, we're all set.
Okay.
I'm Lisa Thompson, 208 South Second Street. I wasn't gonna speak, but you talked about the negativity earlier, so I just wanted to say something positive. That was one of the houses affected by the sewer line was actually mine. And a lot of people told me I would never get the city to fix it. And so I just wanted to say thank you for getting it done. And I know there were a lot of problems, but it still got done relatively quickly, and people were really flexible in helping me because the property, the one that I live in, is a rental. It's a short-term rental. So I had to move a lot of people and find other people to take my renters, and the city was willing to reimburse me for that, which, I was really appreciative of that. And I think, I've heard you talk about blight, and I think one of the things I've seen, even just in that block since that project, was that some of the people, I'm now fixing my driveway, one of the other houses got it painted already. I think when the city does the project and people see that the city will spend money, it motivates us to do the same thing. So I would say hopefully more of that can happen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I would just like to say that she was also very accommodating as we brought her a problem after problem with what was going on. So thank you for that as well.
Still talk about my porta potty.
All right, is there anyone else, any additional public comment? All right, and if not, we will go ahead and close public comment, and we will move on to mayor and council reports. And I'll reverse the order on that and start with council reports, and we'll go this way, Jason.
Okay, I'll start off by saying happy birthday, Councilmember Skug, as of yesterday. I won't say how old he is, but he did graduate in 1967, so you can put the math out there. My dad graduated with him, so I'm stuck with him. I want to say that Labor Day festivities were excellent. The mayor spoke, and good time was had by all. The Bellamy Brothers are going to be in town for a concert to benefit the Peterson Auditorium on October 23rd. Tickets are $35, so reach into your pockets to help the school system with improvements.
Who are they?
Well, you are going to have to Google them because
Still
they're...
remember Nat King Cole?
They are
I
a
do.
group that is many decades old, but it is a benefit to help the improvements at the Peterson Auditorium. So reach into your pockets, help your school system. We had a meeting this morning about the roundabout project, and we kind of went through every possible solution to some things that were raised. And that is an ongoing conversation, but I just wanted to bring that up, that we have been looking at some possible concerns there. And last, again, I would like to thank Jim Lampman for his years of service to the city of Ishpeming. So I just want to thank Jim once again, and that's all I do have.
All right, Stu? Nothing? Okay.
Jason covered everything that I was gonna cover. One thing I also want to extend my gratitude to Jim. He's put up with a lot over the last couple of years with the influx and the outflux of managers, assistant and temporary, and did a great job and always had the city in his heart. So appreciate it, Jim. The other thing about our MDOT meeting, thank you to the people from MDOT. We had 4 of those guys involved, and they were very accommodating. I think we resolved what we're able to resolve, and there'll be some, like Jason said, there'll be some continuing discussions. But looking forward to the roundabout coming in 23. The police chief said it best. He said we still have accidents, but very little damage and no death. So I'm looking forward to that as well. That's all.
We did. It's possible that that.
All right, so then I will, I guess I could sort of continue my, the positivity. When we talked about the light on top of the Cliff Shaft Museum, I had meant to mention that the Cliff Shaft Museum has had record tour attendance this year, which is pretty outstanding. And I know Karen is a tour guide there. You all might even be slightly overwhelmed, which is pretty awesome. Also, just continuing the positives, right? Like Karen, you did those cemetery tours all summer. They were well attended. You just said before the meeting that there were 20 some people at your Main Street tour last night. Those are all super positive things that are happening. Additionally, Partridge Creek Farm just continues to grow. That's a terrible, pun, I don't know. But yeah, they continue to do really
Your
great
Honor,
things.
could you break up the other meeting until you finish?
Sorry.
Yes,
I might
please.
explain something.
We're going to talk about some performance things with Craig on the agenda in a closed session, but I attended the Partridge Creek Farm intern presentations, which went quite long, actually. And Craig stayed through the whole thing, and I did not know that you were going to do this, but he gave a manager coin to every one of the interns for Partridge Creek Farm this summer, which I thought was pretty amazing and special. And, I've seen Craig at lots of evening, weekend, sort of off-duty events that did not require his attendance or participation that he has chosen to go to. And I've been super impressed by that community involvement where it was, but was not required. And so I think that's fantastic. Thank you. Thank you for the commitment to the community. And I think it's appreciated by those who recognize your attendance also. So just, I'll stop because I could keep talking about positive things, so I'll stop. That would be it for me. And manager's report.
So, as we spoke earlier, I have the fall conference, the MML conference coming up in 2 weeks. So I'll be down in Grand Rapids. And then I have volunteered to host the UP Managers Conference in October. And so we've finally got a shell of a plan. The outline for the agenda looks really solid. I have some really excited presentations. Our presenters are excited about their presentations. And the goal will be met to spend all of our money in Ishpeming. So we've got a lot of opportunity there. We're going to be able to use 3 restaurants to cover breakfast, lunch, and dinner. We have some gifts that we'll be able to remind people of their time in Ishpeming. And we're going to spend time at the Cliff Mine Shaft Museum, and I believe we'll go to the Ski Hall of Fame, but Justin, the last time I called him, I caught him in the stream of Alaska fishing, which is kind of funny. So I'm waiting for him to get back. And then, so we've got a lot of people pretty excited about coming to Ishpeming here soon, which is nice to showcase this. I've also showcased this room with the city managers and supervisors of Marquette County. They were all very impressed and are looking forward to trying to use the facility as a gateway to them getting something similar. They were really asking a lot of questions and looking forward to getting some information from us about what we used, how we got the sources for it. But it's working out. And then to Partridge Creek Farms, they got a $90,000 grant that they're working on, and they're also in the process of securing a much larger grant from the UP Health Foundation. But we're working some of their grant efforts through this use of this room where they can do some strategic planning and some other grant effort planning, and then be able to even Zoom in the future to farms that are outside of our community, even in different counties, that will help give feedback into their programs. So we're starting to showcase Ishpeming from the standpoint of the great things that we're doing and how we're coming out of the dark ages into the future, even if it's just as simple as sharing this facility with folks. It's been well received, and people are really excited about coming to Ishpeming for a meeting nowadays, which is surprising, right?
Very nice.
So I think those are all really good things, and I'll certainly be giving you reports on those. And then before Mr. Scanlon asks, yes, I have a report due this week, and I owe you one for the last week. So I am tracking them. They'll be done this
Sounds good.
by Friday, but.
How many are coming in October?
So the estimate is that I need 25 to 30 rooms. I don't know if that's accurate or not, because being in Marquette, a lot of the folks that will come are fairly close to us. But with sponsors and presenters and managers, I am projecting about 50. Our capacity is 49, so I'm hoping that we're right at 49. But I mean, that's sort of the projected ideas. And then as I get that final icebreaker evening available, I would probably request 2 or 3 of you all, maybe all 5 of you, to come to the icebreaker and just mingle with other managers from the UP. But it should be a good time. I think I sent out 32 sponsorship letters, and I'm already starting to get some positive feedback on that as well. So, and there were a lot of things that were given to me as products that were just, here's what you need to do, and it was a sponsorship form of here's the addresses of people to contact, and it was really quite limited. Well, I thought from the perspective of businesses that are doing well, even in time of COVID, but also big partners in the UP. So I tried to expand that. So that's where I went to all the 3 universities and asked them to sponsor in a way. UP Health Foundation, Cliffs, Eagle Mines, some of those places that, reach much more than just Marquette County from a lot of perspectives. So I think that's gonna change the dynamic of sponsorship for this meeting going forward, and that people will start thinking bigger and broader from that perspective. So that's all I got.
All right, Caroline.
No real report, but I also want to thank Jim for his work. When I first started a little over a year ago, Jim was very welcoming. He showed me all around, showed me everything in a way that no one else was able to do. And I think we've worked together well, and I wish him all the best in his next endeavor.
Thank you.
Your Honor, I will make a motion that we go into closed session pursuant to Michigan Compiled Law 15.268A to consider a periodic personnel evaluation requested by the city manager and to discuss one position in the hourly program we have.
Support.
Yeah, I was wondering, do we go into closed session, come back into open, and then go back?
You can do that, but I think you want to list all of the reasons in the motion. So you're referring to the
General
subpart that allows closed session for discussion of strategy for union negotiations, I think. Yep. C.
Oh, okay. So it would be in addition, we would go into closed session pursuant to Michigan Compiled Law 15-268C to consider strategy and negotiations connected with the collective bargaining agreement. Works good.
Thank you.
And I can never remember, do we do roll call for that?
Yes.
Okay, yes, then we need a roll call.
Who will not come out?
Okay.
I guess are we having anybody else join?
Well, as part of the motion, I would not have a problem with the chief staying for the part of the union, the other part, Craig's call.
Yeah, so I guess I want to say it's important to have our directors present for conversation and let them have a choice, but I believe that they should hear what I have to say and be able to give input if you had questions regarding their roles, because there's some questions there.
Regards to my?
No, regarding
Your part of it.
my portion, but if you had a question about some things. But it's up to them whether they want to be here or not. I mean, honestly, I encourage them to be here. As far as my awareness, is mine, that I don't care either way from my staff.
Who else do we have, Jess?
We'll call Jim up,
Okay.
and then I guess we're gonna go silent on this, and Jesse's at home, so Jesse would not. So if from the perspective of who's here physically, Jim could come up, Jason could come up. Jim's gonna give us some additional data when he comes up. Jesse's at home, so she wouldn't be able to. But I mean, I'm leaving it to my directors to be here or not be here. That's their choice.
And my concern with the other issue is a 2-minute.
Really quick,
And we'll be done,
yeah,
so.
really quick. So we need to do a roll call.
Councilmember Chap,
Yes.
Councilmember Berkeley, is
She had to leave.
okay. Councilmember Scanlon,
Yes.
Councilmember Scud,
Yes.
Mayor Bean.
Yes.
Jim, we're going to close session. Can you come up when you get to putting the banner up?
Yes.
put his review on file.
The bond you have in your file.
Hey, we're good whenever you guys want to start.
Good.
Okay.
What are we doing here?
That's back to this one. That's your impact.
Gotcha.
And we vote to come out of closed session? Oh, we just, ta-da. Okay.
So I think you're back.
So we are back in open session.
I'll make a motion that we go to open session.
Support.
Okay. All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
Just elbow you right into the wall.
All right. And then I would make a motion that we file the mid-year review with the rest of the manager's performance evaluations. All right. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Then we will go back to item number 17, having addressed the one question in closed session. So number 17 is non-union employees' economic proposals.
So we touched on it previously in a previous session, but we went through the personnel policy for non-union employees, and we recommended some changes. We talked about those previously and how those might affect stuff. So those changes are highlighted in your packet. It looks like this one here, but some of those are now what comes out of the economic proposals. And since each of the staff are, and I'm talking about director level staff, each of those staff members are essentially their own contract, even though they're not a contract. They've proposed slightly different for themselves rather than as a non-union. So we'll talk to each one of these. So we'll start with the police chief because he's in the top corner. But one of the questions was, when you come into a job and you've been working for a long time, I've been working 26 years before I came to this job. I wouldn't expect that my annual leave is 10 days, 14 days. And one of the conditions that we sort of changed was re-scoping in the policy a by years band where you fall into the number of days of leave that you would earn. And then looking at the time that Steve has had in his position, not just here, but in profession that he brings with him, we thought that it would make sense to put his hours of leave or days of leave at a higher rate. He probably should have been able to negotiate that when he came on board. I wasn't part of that process, but I would recommend that it's appropriate that he would be looking at a 40-day annual leave, which is a plus 20 to him. It's a pretty big change, but I think it's definitely warranted by experience and professionalism. Also, for each of them, you'll see that this is not a change across the board, but we looked at the way they earn comp and compared them to everybody else so that we're not earning in different. We're trying to standardize and make people like one another. Not I like you, but like in process. And so we looked at earning comp time at a 1.5 hour rate, but then they have two different ways in which comp time applies. The first 80 hours has no cash value. They can't cash that out. It's just straight comp time. They earn it at the 1.5. They can use it at the 1.5, but they cannot cash it out. The second is the OT version of additional pay, which is still earned at the 1.5, but we increased them to match the others. So the total between those two categories is 230. That conversation is the same for the chief, the treasurer, the clerk's assistant to the city manager / election. And then it would also be for the finance director as we get one on board. So just to make sure you all understand that same. Steve is looking that it's reasonable to ask for a 5% increase. I will say that Steve is lower paid than many. In fact, I think most of his employees even get more money than he does. When you add in some of the benefits that he's not collecting because he's retired from another community that he didn't cost the city to be in his position. So he doesn't collect a pension from us. He doesn't collect insurance from us. And those are expenses that he's saved the city. And instead of rewarding that, we've actually reduced his pay and that he's lower paid than most of his staff. So I don't think 5% is unwarranted. And then I think that we looked across the board in several conversations and talking about salaries and a recognition of who's been working the hardest through COVID and doing things. Steve's had to manage probably more than anybody because his officers come in contact with people more frequently that have had COVID. He had a lot of close contacts. He's had a lot of families that one or more members of the family ended up in close contact, and he had to manage a light staff on a 24/7 shift to make sure that we weren't missing our public safety role and mission out there. So I think that a $1,500 pay rate, a bonus, is not unheard of as well. And then the one thing that we can do for Steve, given that he's not collecting pension and not collecting insurance from us, is to bump up his 457. And he's only looking for a 2% bump up. So I don't know if you want to pause, discuss each one individually, or do you want me to brief them all and discuss them as a collective group? It's up to you. I think individually makes sense, but I find that these guys have asked reasonable questions, and so I would stand behind every recommendation there. I may have even pushed them a little bit harder to add some numbers because I felt like they were worth more than what they were even willing to ask for in some cases. So I'm going to defend all of the numbers on this chart. I hope that you will support them.
I don't have any questions or challenges.
I don't either. Well, the whole sheet?
No, we're just doing the police chief at this
Yeah,
point.
just for the police chief, I have no questions or challenges.
Okay, then I'll move on to the treasurer, just going top to bottom. So Caitlin she started out as an assistant and now she's working as a treasurer, and guess what? She's gonna also be managing some of the load of the finance director now for a period of time to be determined. But her time and grade on the new table puts her at 25 days of leave, which is only a +5. I think that's reasonable. It's right in line with the new policy. We already talked about the next two items. She's asking for a 6.5%. I will say that she manages a lot of the functions of the front office that Jim doesn't, and Jim manages a lot of the front office items that Caitlin doesn't. But the two of them keep the ship moving forward in the front office. And Caitlin is paid at a lower rate than the rest of the admin staff. Yet she's probably carrying responsibility. And I don't want to compare workload. I'm not comparing workload. I'm comparing responsibility. She manages all of our tax. She manages our pay accounts receivable, accounts payable. She's managing payroll. And then she's gonna pick up a lot of finance stuff. She carries a lot of weight and she's really low paid. So I think her request of 6.5 is not unreasonable.
I would agree.
And then again, with the bonus, Caitlin's been here through it all and toughed it out and made sure everybody got paid, made sure there wasn't any hiccups when people were on their COVID leave. And payroll has sustained itself throughout this challenging time. So again, I'll defend all items on the document. Hope that you'll support.
I have no questions or challenges to the treasurer.
Neither do I.
Okay, moving on to the clerk. Now, I say that tongue in cheek. And Kathy I'll be devastated if Kathy leaves before I retire. I hope that the two of us walk out the door having trained someone new before we leave at the same time. She laughs every time I say it, and that scares me. But I will say that Kathy was not willing to put this on paper. This is Craig's numbers of what I think the value of Kathy is. Kathy is invaluable to me, no matter what anybody ever says. I can't live without her. This job is not going to be successful without Kathy. I will not be able to do this job without Kathy. That said, she made me reduce her days off. I had her day off higher, but she made me follow the table. So following the table, she requested only 5 extra days. She made me reduce it by 15. But her convincing argument is she won't take it anyway. She's got so much comp time and other stuff that she gets from the other functions. But I want to recognize that she's doing the job of 3 functions. And you've been paying her the function of 1.
No kidding.
Which is where my next argument comes. Kathy didn't like my first number, so she made me put a second number on there. My argument to you, my defense to you, is $20,000 increase.
I support that.
She's feeling a little broke up about that because she just doesn't want to be in the mix of the next rumor or the next letter that comes in or the next comment from one of the employees down the street or across the block or in the hallway. She just wants to do her job, do it professionally, and go home at the end of the day and have her work-life balance. To me, she's invaluable. $20,000 is respectable repayment. She's been underpaid for I don't know how long. She's doing 3 jobs. She deserves the pay for what she does, and I hope that you support that and the bonus.
So I have one challenge, the language. Clerk, assistant to the city manager, assistant city manager.
I think that was a big fight for a long time.
Because she does.
I think we should leave the language as it is.
She does do more than just assistant to, so that's my only comment.
You all have history. I don't have a history. Kathy is gonna be my right-hand person, no matter what the title that's there. I think we just have to be respectful in how we compensate her for the work she does. I don't think she cares about the title. I don't care about the title. Honestly, I appreciate your comment about the title, but if it was a political issue, there's no sense. There's no sense in raising it back up.
Let's not touch it.
That's my bottom line.
Yeah, I am in full support of the 20,000 raise. And I know that we should have done a better job when you were given the $1 raise for the accepting of the clerk position as well. And so I do think that you are worth that.
Amen.
You are owed that, and we will leave the title for some other time.
Fair enough.
The only, and it's not an objection, it's a concern I have, that we could throw $100,000 at her. It's not gonna help with her workload. And I think that that's something that needs to stay, I know it's in Craig's mind, but we gotta keep that in the forefront. I think it's a very fair raise. I think she knows how much I appreciate the things she does. But I think we have to keep in our minds that all the money in the world doesn't scrape half of your desk into the basket. So I have no objections, but I want to reiterate that we have to do something for her work.
I will agree with you on that, but, and 5,000 isn't gonna make a difference in that area. And Kathy, you are so valued, and I don't know what I'd do without you. So I am fully in support of that $20,000 raise. It is long overdue, and it was a promise that I made to you that we would do something. And I think every person on this council has promised that.
No, that would be against the charter.
I don't know if I've actually promised anything. I don't know if I've actually promised, I've not promised anything. I promised nothing, but
I
do
I
think
mean, I
that-
don't mean it in that term. I look at it as A promise to do the right thing is more along the lines of what I said, this is the right thing to do.
And
I
I,
promised her I'd come see her in a loony bin. That's the only promise I made.
Well,
and I think to add to this, that it's not, I mean, we are talking about Kathy, and I do not mean to diminish in any way, shape, or form the allocates that you've just been given, but the same holds true for these other positions as
absolutely.
well.
Yes.
And we did not make as big of a deal about Steve's increases, but they certainly would be warranted also.
Absolutely.
So the one position we already spoke to, I'm gonna move back down to finance director. So I was trying to figure out like what's the inflation. I know that Jim would have come with his proposal. He and I had been working on it and had something kind of worked. And I think that the 5% was kind of where he was headed for what was commensurate for where he was in the job. So my pay band for the job offering would be, you know, that 72 to 75.6. So it creates the pay band by incorporating the potential for a 5% increase based on experience. Hopefully you guys are okay with that, but that's where I'd like to go on the street with that.
Absolutely.
Okay. And then finally, I want to talk about our part-time employees, and I don't know that I can say enough about them. They are committed, or as committed to their job as any full-time employee. And you wouldn't know they were part-time except that they're forced to go home at the end of the day sometimes. Steve's chasing Russ out the door. Hey, your time is up. You got to go home. I'm chasing Al out the door. Al, it's Thursday. You're going to come in tomorrow too? What the heck is going on? Like, they're all committed. Vicky will come in early at the drop of a hat if you ask her to. The library staff, those clerks are doing outstanding work in library programs, even through COVID. And so, you know, I don't think that they're any less deserving of anything great. I paired them essentially with the police and the DPW in that I offered them I suggested a somewhat commensurate to the police agreement with the 3% and the $500 bonus. I will say that right now you can find a job very easily for $13 an hour sitting at a teller in the bank, or you can be a cook for $18 an hour. And you can go to places for $18 an hour with benefits, and we're pretty low below that. So I don't think that a 3% is a far stretch for those folks. I don't think any one of them knows that I'm here talking about it tonight. So that'll be a big surprise to them that they're gonna receive something should you decide to support it. But I think it's warranted and reasonable.
I do look at that, and I would like to see that a little higher. I look at the hourly rate, and you can go to Meijer and make $15, $16 an hour. You can go to McDonald's and make more than that. And these people are professionals, and I would like to see that increased. And these people are working city government. I'd like to see 5%. Stu agrees?
See a head nod from Stu on 5.
I feel like that's an auction thing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
I'm agreeing
Right.
as well. I'm happy with 5%.
Yeah.
So I understand from this discussion that the only changes made to my line proposals is we struck out the lower end of salary on Kathy or the clerk, assistant city manager election. And then we increased the 3% on the regular part-time employees to 5%. All other things were approved and accepted by council.
Yes.
Do we have to have a motion on this? I will make a motion that we accept the, what do I
economic.
We
proposals
accept the economic proposals for the police,
of
of the non-union employees, the police chief, treasurer, clerk, assistant to the city manager / elections, finance director, and the regular part-time employees. Thank you.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Good.
Thank you. That's all I have, Your
All right.
Honor.
That is, I would like to make a motion to adjourn on a very positive and high note.
One thing, I don't know if it would be appropriate, but this is the time. I'd like to see us send congratulations, thank you letter to all of our employees on all the things they put up with through COVID. And basically, it's our pleasure to offer you this new package and something to that effect.
Are you,
Yes.
so I heard all employees, so bargaining units already have their notification and stuff, but a letter that thanks them for their work. But recognition also to the folks that are just learning tomorrow.
Right, but to everybody.
Right, so I'll draft a letter, I'll notify these employees tomorrow, I'll draft a letter and let you guys review it and see if it's your sentiments to the workforce before the weekend, and then hopefully I can get it out to them all before the weekend.
Citywide, people have put up with the situation for a long, long time.
Yep.
And then COVID popped in and made it even worse, so I think it's appropriate to show it's, we're not just throwing money at you. You did our devil.
That's a nice touch.
So I don't want to be a downer on the end, but I just realized we forgot something very important before we dismiss. This weekend is the 20th anniversary of 9/11. So I hope that everyone will take a moment to remember all of the lives that were lost on 9/11, and then the 20 years of war that followed that 9/11. And I'm sure that we'll have a lot of flags at half-staff, so please remind people why those are there. But please take a moment to remember those. Thank a soldier, thank a police officer, thank a fireman, thank a healthcare worker. All of them participated in one way or another. Even from afar, they were doing something in their mind for the 9/11 and all of the years that have followed the war, so.
I guarantee you, every single person in this room knows somebody who served in Afghanistan.
Anyway, I didn't mean to bring it down,
No.
but I don't want to forget that respectful moment.
Very valid.
You have a motion and a support, I think.
Yes, all
I'll
those,
make a motion, oh, I'm sorry.
I think we had motion and support, so all those in favor of adjourning?
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you, Jason.